There are a few moments in everyone's life where something happens or somebody says something or some kind of an event that changes the course of your future. It changes the way that you think, it changes what you're doing, it changes the way that you think about yourself, it changes the way you view the world. There's certain things that happen that they force us to be different. I want to give you 3 quick stories of things that happened to me to set me on the course of where I am now. So the first 2 stories actually happen in tandem. They're within a few weeks of each other. I was a young real estate professional. I was in my early 20s and I had just had a huge month. I had had my first $1 million month. I was one of the youngest in my company to ever hit $1 million. And at the time, the average sales price was around $150,000. So it was a pretty big deal. And I had one really big contract and then I had 5 other smaller deals. So I had a total of 6 contracts, close to $1 million. It was awesome. And I will never forget walking up the stairs from that meeting. And somebody that I looked up to, somebody that I was friends with, turned around, stopped, and made a point to say, "Congratulations, whoop-de-doo, you sold 1 home. Who cares?" And I remember that deflating feeling of like, why would you say that to me? Like, why take the time? You were incredibly successful, so far more successful than me at the time. Why would you go out of your way to make a statement like that to me? And I internalized that. Unfortunately, I was young and everything that was spoken to me, I took very, very personally and I took it to heart. Well, maybe I did only sell 1 home. I did, and I sold 5 or 6. But I thought, you know what? Maybe this person is right. Maybe I'm actually not that big of a deal. Maybe this isn't something that I should celebrate. The second story happened within just a few weeks of that first story. Is in the same setting, downstairs in our team meeting. And I had just had that huge month, but I was kind of in a bad state because I had listened to what this person said to me a month before. And my business came to a screeching halt. I mean, I went from riches to rags very quickly. Closed a huge month and then I had absolutely nothing and nothing for the foreseeable future. And I'll never forget that the person speaking that day said, "Okay, if your business isn't where you want it to be, if it's too slow, I am about to tell you exactly why." And I remember very physically, at the beginning of the meeting, I was sitting like this. And then when he said that, "I'm going to tell you exactly why," I sat up. I was like, oh my gosh, I am so excited. I'm about to know exactly what's going on. And then this person began to say, essentially, if your business isn't where you want it to be, it's because there's sin in your life and God is punishing you to bring you back to Him so that once you're back in His fold, He'll then bless you with real estate business again. And I heard that and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I went from to, oh my gosh, are you serious? This is why I'm not being successful? Because God is punishing me for sin in my life and all I have to do is return to Him and then He'll bless me with business again. Again, remember, I was young, I was very inexperienced in life, and I believed anybody that I respected. If it came out of their mouth and I respected them, I was going to internalize it. So I began to believe that was the truth. But then as I began to continue to get a little bit older, that meeting was always at the forefront of my mind. And it drove me so crazy that I said, wait a second, I want to figure out if that's really true. Does God really work that way? So I spent 4 years getting a seminary degree, actually 2 seminary degrees after that, because I wanted to know, is that the truth? It messed with my mind because I believed what anybody would say to me. That's the second story. And then the third and final story, I was at a new brokerage. I had transitioned to a different real estate company, and someone stepped into my office, and there was a couple other people around, and that person was just having a conversation with someone else about owning a brokerage and starting a company. And then he turned and looked at me and he said, "And John, as for you, owning a company probably isn't your thing." And then somebody else that was in the room just patted me on the back and said, "It's good to know our place in life, John." And I will never forget that enraged feeling where I just wanted to look at him and say, are you kidding me? Finally, I grew up to a point where what somebody said to me, I didn't internalize. And instead, it made me realize who I really am. Should I own a brokerage? According to that person, no. Should I own a company? According to that person, no. And guess what? Here I am now, and I own 2 companies. At this point, I would love to go back in time and tell that kid that was sitting in the chair or standing in those settings and tell that person, other people's opinion of you doesn't have to become your reality. What other people think of you has nothing to do with you and has a lot more to do with them. People like to project the way they feel and think about themselves onto everybody else. And for me, I guess I put out this vibe that I was a sponge that would absorb anything that anybody said, good or bad, and I would convince myself and justify it as, well, it's respectful to listen to people and it's respectful to take people's opinion and listen to them. But I finally had to grow up and learn the only person's opinion that matters was my own. And if I had a cool marketing idea that I wanted to try, nobody else's opinion mattered. Nobody else's perspective but my own mattered. Now, I don't want that to sound arrogant or self-righteous or selfish, but at the end of the day, I had to grow up and learn to trust my own gut. You have to realize that you're the only person running your race. You're the only person living your life. And everybody's got a perspective. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has their idea of how you should do it. At the end of the day, what matters most is you. If you try an idea and it fails, guess what? It was your idea, you tried it, and you learned from it. As opposed to the kid that I was that would have an idea and I would speak it to somebody and they would tell me, dumb idea, it'll never work. You shouldn't try it. And so I wouldn't try it. Thankfully, that last story was finally the kick I needed to get me so fired up that I finally said, F you all, I'm doing my thing, my way, the way that I think it needs to be done. And so far, so good. I wish I had learned that lesson a little sooner, but it is what it is. So maybe you have a similar story, or maybe you have a similar personality, or maybe you've had moments in your life that sound somewhat similar, with people doubting you, people trying to put you down, people trying to give you a perspective that's their perspective. That doesn't mean it has to be yours. Live your life. Run your race. You've got one shot at this, and you're the only one that can live your own life. Respect people's opinions, but at the end of the day, do your thing. Catch you on the next one.